Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I would make a quick video here to cover the key notes from the keynote of the Final Fantasy XIV Fan Festival in Japan. So I'm going to keep this nice and short and sweet. I might add in a little bit of speculation here and there, but we're just going to discuss essentially the important stuff that they spoke about. Now, we'll start right off with what I'm sure most people have already heard of, the most prominent piece of news from the keynote, and that is the reveal of Red Mage. We have finally gotten it confirmed. Most of us already kind of just assumed like Red Mage was a thing. It was coming no matter what. It was very heavily hinted. I mean, there's no way you could have taken the Scarlet Witch shirt any other way, in my opinion. But anyway, so Red Mage was confirmed, and as a surprise to me, and I know to a lot of people, Red Mage is a ranged magic user. It is a ranged DPS by design. However, it does use a rapier. The weapon is, in fact, a rapier and a magic crystal medium in their offhand. So it's one weapon. So you're not going to have, it's not like a paladin sword and shield. The rapier and the medium, are one weapon. But you hold the rapier in one hand and the medium in the other. And when you cast spells, you hook your sword essentially into the medium and use it like as a staff to cast spells. But Red Mage uses both. And in a very, I think, a very unique design, Red Mage is primarily a ranged magic user. However, it also uses melee, and how it does that is really unique in my opinion. So it's going to be a very mobile ranged melee hybrid. And so while primarily you'll do a lot of casting, you do a lot of like charging and backflipping in and out of combat to do melee strikes, and then follow that up with magic. So, for example, in the video they showed, the Red Mage casts a few spells, and then he dashes forward with like a grapple, like a magic grapple, and he pulls himself to the enemy, does a bunch of slashes, and then backflips and chain spells a giant like flare spell. And so chain spell, of course, is going to be a very important aspect of Red Mage. If you don't know what chain spell is, that allows for the instant casting of magic. It's been a Red Mage thing for a while now. But Red Mage has chain spells, so a lot of your casts are going to be instant. You're not going to be sitting there casting. However, some abilities were shown to have a cast time, so they are not completely without cast bars. But it's going to be it looks to be like a very unique ranged DPS, so they're bringing something new to the table. Personally, I was surprised it wasn't a melee support, so I'm eating my words on that. But a ranged / melee focused on ranged. The focus is on range. Hybrid. It's really cool. And what's even more interesting to me is Red Mages use red magic. Now, those of you may be like, well, of course, it's Red Mage, it's going to use red magic. If you don't know much about Final Fantasy, Red Mages traditionally use black and white magic. That is what makes a Red Mage. They use black and white together. Red magic has never really been a thing, right? You have black and white magic used by one mage, that makes them a Red Mage. It doesn't mean they use red magic. However, in Final Fantasy XIV, red magic is a thing, and what it is the fusion of black and white magic. So it's a hybrid of the two. You're not casting black magic and white magic, you're casting both at the same time, which is red magic. So they're kind of taking a new spin on what a Red Mage is. They also said that in the keynote itself. They're saying, it's not a traditional Red Mage, but it's close enough where people will feel some sense of familiarity, and people who are new to the series will also just be like, well, this is really fucking cool. So it's going to be a bit different. It's not going to be like a classic, enfeebling, black and white magic Red Mage. It's going to be something entirely new, but it looks really cool. The starting level, this is tentative, it's not confirmed, they could make some adjustment here and there, is going to be level 50. There is no associated class. It's going to be just the job like, Dark Knight, Astro, and Machinist, which is really good. I'm glad they're moving away from classes entirely. And it is going to start in a ARR area. It is not going to start in one of the new zones from Stormblood. It is going to start in one of the older zones. So chances are it's not at all related to anything Alamegan. It doesn't make sense for it to be anyways, because they're kind of more of like a martial, city-state. They don't really do magic as far as I know. But Red Mage will be unlocked in an ARR area, and they seemed to imply that you will not have to progress in the Stormblood storyline to unlock Red Mage. So as long as you're level 50, I imagine you'll be able to unlock Red Mage, which will tie in nicely with the jump potions that are supposedly coming. So you can like unlock a 50 with the jump potion and then unlock Red Mage or whatever else and just kind of like start from there. But that's speculation on my part right there. But that about covers Red Mage. There were some other interesting things revealed during the keynote, so we're going to go through a few of the other things before we wrap up this video. But Red Mage was pretty much the real big like chunk of information we got. We got finally a job reveal, 100% confirmed. Now the other big reveal we got that I know a lot of us saw coming from a pretty far ways away was swimming. We got swimming confirmed. So we got flying in Heaven's Ward, and in Stormblood we will be taking to the water with swimming. Now, they released quite a bit of information on how exactly it's going to work, and there's some very reassuring details in there. Combat will not be happening in the water. For those of you that are afraid of the nightmare that is water combat in most games, Guild Wars 2, I'm looking at you, Final Fantasy XIV will not be having underwater combat. However, Yoshi P did say they added a death animation in the water, and so he encourages people to find a way to like get a dot on yourself or something and die in the water, because if you do, there is a very unique death animation. So that's just kind of a funny little thing. But no water combat. Now, there are going to be swimming areas in select portions of ARR zones. Not every body of water will be swimmable, as well as some zones in Stormblood. Now, the key difference here is all of the zones in ARR, at least at the start, will not have diving. However, zones in Stormblood will also have diving. So you will be able to dive under the water and explore these massive underwater zones. Now, there is going to be a few types of content tied to swimming. The most important from the keynote anyways is the fact that there will be gathering underwater. Now, I don't know if this is going to affect botanist and miner, but it was mentioned that fisher will be able to fish underwater. At one point in the video, the Makote was swimming along, and there seemed to be like an air pocket under the water, and so I imagine those pockets of air will be where you stand to actually fish. So that'll be a very interesting take on fishing. If you enjoy fishing, you won't have to fish from the shore. You can fish from under the water and under the ocean. So that'll be interesting. It remains to be seen if there's also going to be like gathering nodes for botanist and miner. I imagine they will, but again, they didn't say anything about that. I don't think so. We shall see. Mounts will be able to go in the water, so that's really interesting. Or rather, let me correct myself there. Flying mounts will be able to go in the water. Normal mounts will not be able to access water. However, if a mount is flying, you can fly over the water, you can swim through the water on top, you can also dive under with your mount. And there will be a water-based mount in the game. I'll touch on that later when we get to the collector's edition, but there are going to be water mounts. I don't know if that's going to have any special boon over a flying mount. They didn't say anything about that, but we will see in time. There's no sort of loading between being on land and swimming. You just walk right into the water and start swimming. There are two different types of swim modes. There is like a breaststroke when you're walking. It's just kind of like a normal slow, swim. And then when you sprint, you do like a crawl and you swim real fast, all that stuff. It's a given. The speed of swimming is going to be slightly slower than walking, which makes sense. I mean, you don't swim super quickly. Emotes are available in the water. At one point, the Makote is treading water and she waves to Lalafell on a rock. And then there's a scene where they do like a change pose in the water, and she kind of floats on her back next to another guy. So there's gonna be some emotes. It'll be a fun little thing to like hang out with your friends and swim around and all this stuff. I feel like it's gonna be one part social, one part gathering focused content, and I'm sure they'll expand on it. They did mention that there will be some underwater peoples in Stormblood, and you will have to go underwater to talk to certain NPCs at some point in the storyline or during quests or whatever else. So they're going to tie content to it, but not combat content. So this is going to be a different type of content entirely from what we are used to. And a very good segue for that topic in particular is the new beast tribe that was revealed, and that is the Ananta. And as you can see here, it is very quite clearly a Lamia, and they touched on this. So the Ananta is a beast tribe that has existed since before the reign of the Allegan Empire. That's like over 5,000 years ago or something like that. And you may notice if you have ran the Binding Coil, or even in Azisla, there are Lamia enemies that were made by the Allegan Empire. Turns out they were oppressed by the Allegans, probably some sort of aetherochemical bioengineering to turn them into the monstrosities that we fight against, such as Melusine and so on and so forth. But the Ananta were originally this race, and they still exist to this day. They are solely female. There are no male Ananta. They are oppressed by the Garleans, which is no real surprise. I mean, that's what they do to the beast tribes. So there's going to be some plot point there with the Ananta being, you know, fucked up by the Garleans, probably going to summon their primal because of it, which the Garleans absolutely don't want. So I don't know why they would do that in the first place. But hey, story, right? We're going to find out. They are known for their skill in spell and gemcraft, which you can see right there at the fucking bottom. I'm just reading that word for word. And they inhabit the mountains near Alamigo. I imagine we're going to run into a lot of these guys underwater with the swimming. But the even bigger reveal with the Ananta was their primal. And that primal is Lakshmi. So we finally have Lakshmi in Final Fantasy XIV. And here is a in-game render of her, Noah. She looks very, very interesting, very humanoid. There's some art here. In the art, you kind of see she has a big old snake tail. I don't really see it in the in-game render. Maybe that's like a different phasing, or it's just concept art or whatever else. But Lakshmi is going to be one of the new primals in Stormblood, and that is pretty neat. But we don't really have much else info on that right now. I'm sure we'll get more as we get closer to the launch, though. Next up, we got information on the 8-man and the 24-man Alliance raids that are going to be coming out in Stormblood, and both of these got me really excited. The 24-man especially, but I'll get to that in a second. We're going to talk about the 8-man for starters. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen here, and I'm going to let you guys guess before I say. Take a look at this. Who is this? I wonder. The second it popped up on screen, I knew immediately. I'm sure a lot of you guys did too. This is Omega. We are finally getting Omega. They've been teasing it in the storyline for over a year now, for a very long time. Since A Realm Reborn, the end of A Realm Reborn, they were teasing it. So we are finally getting a story with Omega, and it is titled The Bend of Time. Now, I'm kind of curious about this and what exactly that means, because we just had a time travel storyline with Alexander, and now we have The Bend of Time with Omega. So I wonder if there's going to be some sort of like even more significant time travel aspect. I think it'd be really cool if we went back to like the reign of the Allegan Empire kind of thing, that sort of time travel. That'd be some fucking awesome shit right there. But that's a pipe dream in my opinion. Anyway, so we have no other information other than the fact that it is called The Bend of Time, and we will be battling against Omega, and I am super excited about that. The bigger reveal, however, in my opinion, is the 24-man Alliance raid reveal. And it is titled Return to Ivalice. Now I know what you're saying. Ivalice, that's tactics. That's Final Fantasy XII. What does that mean? Turns out the writer for this storyline, for this raid, is none other than Yasumi Matsuno, who is the self-same man who did the story for Final Fantasy XII. This is the guy who worked on Tactics and 12 and Ivalice, the world of Ivalice. He's writing the story. And from what they were saying, I don't take this as confirmed. It's based off entirely what the keynote said, what the translation said from Fern. But it sounds like we may actually be going to Ivalice. Like, this isn't just, a name tie-in. It seems like this is actually going to be like a realm-hopping Alliance raid to Ivalice. They said they really wanted to like kick it up a notch and do something absolutely crazy and insane that they, unlike anything of the past 24-man raids, and they seem to be implying that we're going to be going to Ivalice. I don't know if that's confirmed. I can't tell you one way or the other. All we really have is speculation at this point. We have no pictures or anything, just this title screen. Return to Ivalice. And it sounds pretty solid, like return to Ivalice. What does that mean? You are returning to Ivalice. So I'm really hopeful. I'm really excited as a Final Fantasy XII fanboy. But again, remains to be seen what is going to happen with that. It could just be a name, or we could actually be going to Ivalice. Fingers crossed. Last, but certainly not least, we got some information on what is in the Collector's Edition, and it's pretty cool. I'm actually really excited about this. I usually don't buy physical Collector's Editions, but I think I'm going to with this one. So what we are getting with the physical Collector's Edition is going to be a special box featuring art from Amano. Looks very cool. Looks very, very cool. A figure of Xenos Galvis, the antagonist of Stormblood. Get a cool little statue of him. That's pretty neat. Of course, there's going to be an art book as usual. We're getting a cloth map of the entirety of Eorzea, and I'm really excited about this one. I'm definitely gonna frame this and put it on my wall. But we're getting a cloth map, and that is so cool. As well as a Stormblood decal, something you can put on your car. Rep that Final Fantasy XIV hype. But that is what is in the physical, the digital Collector's Edition, as well as naturally in the physical as well. But if you want to get just the digital, we are going to get a Sildra mount, which is this crazy Loch Ness underwater mount. I don't know if it's going to be a land mount or a flying mount as well. It might just be an ocean mount. It seems like it. I mean, he has flippers. How the fuck is he going to walk around on the ground? A wind-up Bart's minion, a little chocobo there. And then a Red Mage weapon, which is the chicken knife. And it's kind of funny, I guess. Apparently, so you have the sword naturally. Your crystal medium is a chocobo, and he's like floating around and panicking because, I mean, you're about to shove him onto the hilt of your sword when you cast the spell. That's going to be rather unpleasant for him, I imagine. But that is what we are getting with the digital. So altogether, I think that's a pretty solid Collector's Edition. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm absolutely going to pick up the physical. So please look forward to it. And actually, before we wrap things up here, there is one final thing I would like to talk about, and that is the shirt that Yoshi P was wearing after the Red Mage reveal. Now, if you've watched previous FanFests, you know that whenever Yoshi P is wearing a shirt after a reveal, it's generally a hint, well, not generally, it's always been a hint to the next job. When he was going to reveal Dark Knight, he wore a Batman shirt for the Dark Knight. For Machinist, he wore a Bond shirt because of, like, gadgets. For Red Mage, he wore the Scarlet Witch, which is very self-explanatory, but this time he wore a Spider-Man shirt. And people really got talking about this. No one was really sure at the start. They're like, is it Dancer because he's like acrobatic? Is it Blue Mage because he's a spider? But then it clicked with somebody, and Yoshi P further reinforced this in an interview. But the director for the original Spider-Man trilogy is named Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi, boys and girls. Samurai is very likely going to be the next job. In an interview after the keynote, Yoshi P joked that he liked the director for the Spider-Man movies, which is Sam Raimi. And so, I mean, it's pretty much a given at this point. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Samurai, unless they completely pull the rug out from under us. I honestly, I feel like that's really unlikely. I'm not going to say Samurai confirmed because I can't, but in my opinion, Samurai is about 99.9% certain at this point. And because Red Mage is a sword-wielding DPS, I'm leaning towards it being a tank. And I know a lot of people out there are literally unsubbing and hating me because of that, but I mean, I don't see them adding 2-sword DPS. I think it's going to be a tank, but that's my opinion. You're of course entitled to your own. Don't take that the wrong way. And we'll see. You know, we'll see come Feb with the European Fan Fest. But I am feeling Samurai. I'm feeling tank. But that's just my own opinion, my own speculation. That, however, wraps up everything I wanted to talk about, so we're going to end things here. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. I love your faces. Thank you for your support. Feel free to drop a comment down below if you have any questions or opinions of your own, like, fuck you, Merri, Samurai's going to be a DPS, or, you know, anything else. Please feel free to drop it below, and I will see you guys in the next video.